in real time we did not have the ability to do yesterday when that news broke at about 11:30, a little after 11:30, that Mike Vrabel would no longer be the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. So from Sunday, let's take it from Sunday to Tuesday afternoon, or I guess Tuesday morning because he was fired Tuesday morning, and then the news got out there. So rumors swirling all over the place on Sunday from people inside the organization, not league sources speculating about Mike Vrabel, people in the Titans building believing that Mike Vrabel could be fired on Sunday night, okay? Then Sunday night comes and goes. Mike Vrabel still has a job. They have locker room clean-out day. Exit interviews are conducted with Mike Vrabel and with Rand Carthon. People in the building think Mike Vrabel's going to be fired. Mike Vrabel on Monday still has a job. Then there is a meeting with Mike and Amy Adams Strunk in which I was told, according to sources, he was not going to be given the level of roster control that he desired, that the structure that Amy Adams Strunk put into place was one that she planned to move forward with, this collaborative effort, and that the level of change that they required was not something, and she said this in her statement, as saying as much, that they were looking to evolve and that they did not feel like the evolution of what Mike Vrabel was doing was sufficient, even though the roster talent was bad. Amy Adams Strunk basically told him, this is my thing. This is the direction that I need to go in. You getting more control over my thing is not the direction that I want to go in based on the results that are there. We understand the roster issues. We understand what this is. We think that there are still better ways to make this work based on stuff like, the little things that we've touched on over the years, Lucas, right? Whether it's the way that the offense functions philosophically, whether it's stuff like the defensive backs playing off on 2nd and goal from the 7 and stuff like that, and them not pressing on a regular basis. Defensively, offensively, there are things about the way that Mike Vrabel does business that Amy Adams Strunk cannot control. And they, as is her right, as the team owner, wants a situation that she feels is more controllable in the direction that she wants to move in. So that was my understanding. Now, Albert Breer is saying that in that same meeting that decision was pretty cut and dried for Mike Vrabel. If you read his Tuesday notes on SI.com, answering the question this is directly from Breer, answering the question on why the Titans would walk away from Mike Vrabel, speculation that he could depart has run rampant over the last month in NFL circles. I don't think this is about the relationship between he and first-year GM Rand Carthon, which is something that Rand said yesterday.
And you know what? Rand got a lot of heat for that, and I understand why that could come off as tone deaf. But I believe Rand Carthon. I believe that he and Mike Vrabel have and had a good relationship.
There is zero actual evidence to the effect that there was a rift, as was speculated, between the two. Now, people were treating speculation as reports. That was wrong.
I mean, that's Carthon's whole thing, right? He's a relationship guy.
It's his whole ethos.
People love Rand Carthon.
People like Rand Carthon. Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon, again, as we said, while there are disagreements in any professional relationship, compromise is not something that's out of the question here. It doesn't immediately become a divisive rift that means that these two men can no longer work together. No, it just means it's an average football team where the GM thinks one way, the head coach thinks another. How they find the compromise is incumbent upon them. And, to their efforts were 6-11, so you can determine how well that whole situation played out. But the idea of like some kind of rift that they were unable to bridge, that was never something that we got throughout the course of the season. That was never something that was credibly reported on, it felt like. And it's something that Rand Carthon, and I have no reason to not believe him, because there's nothing out there to contradict him, actually out there to contradict him.
Okay, then why are you so critical of Rand Carthon saying that he and Vrabel were in lockstep and had a good relationship?
I'm not critical, Lucas, because I think the audience is misunderstanding this. I'm not critical of Rand Carthon. I'm critical of Rand Carthon being the one sent out there to answer these questions about why Mike Vrabel was fired when he didn't fire Mike Vrabel. I am not critical of Rand Carthon. If anything, this is a damn defense of Rand Carthon.
Okay, so this is how I process what you've just said about why Mike Vrabel was fired by the Titans.
Yeah.
You tell me if there's a misstep here in how I am processing
Got
this.
it.
We'll go back to last year. Last year, it came down to, okay, do we have a coaching problem or do we have a roster problem? Amy Adams Strunk decided we have a roster problem.
Roster problem.
John Robinson responsible for the roster. John Robinson gone. This year, Mike Vrabel stands to reason with the setup with Rand Carthon had more say in personnel. So, fast forward 2023, 6-11 season. Do we have a coaching problem or do we have a roster problem? The way I understand what you've just laid out is those two things blended together in a way to where Mike Vrabel became more accountable for the state of the roster than he was before.
Yes.
And it contributed to Amy Adams Strunk no longer wanting Mike Vrabel to have a say in personnel, and that leading to the firing of Mike Vrabel. Is that essentially what you've just told us about why he was fired?
Yes.
Because as we said yesterday, if it was strictly a football coaching problem, he would have been gone on Monday.
There was no, if it was just a purely football coaching problem, he would have been gone when Arthur Smith was gone. He would have been gone. Well, maybe not when, when Ron Rivera was gone, not like, McDaniels and all these other ones who were fired in the middle of the season. But if it was just a football decision, Mike Vrabel would have been fired before Tuesday morning. Now, that he wants more control over his situation, I don't think is unfair if you're him. We all want more control over our respective situations. We all want to have the most control possible over the way that we make our paychecks, right? Lucas, do you not want more control over the situation? You and I fight a battle every day about who has more control around here. It's the power struggle is as evident as it's ever been, right? We all want more professional control. It's not a wrong thing for him to ask for, but it's okay for the person who actually controls the thing to be like, no, no, because it didn't go very well when we gave you more of this. And whether or not you think that one season was enough of a sample size to make that determination, that's what he got. That's the NFL. If it's kind of like the Malik Willis situation. Seen him out there a bunch. It hasn't really improved markedly. In fact, there were places where it got worse. Offensive line, by the way, which that's one of the few places that I will be critical of Rand Carthon yesterday, is saying that if the offensive line situation had been healthier, that they would have played better. And, okay, but come on. It's Andre Dillard is not playing better because he's unhealthy. In fact, Andre Dillard and Dennis Staley, remarkably available. So I think that, power struggles and stuff like that, it's okay for the person to ask, and it's okay for the other person to say, no, thanks, we're good. And that's basically what went down here. Now, Mike making his mind, he's a very blunt person, so I don't know the level of diplomacy that he walked into that meeting with. That's not something I think anybody can answer without being in the room. So there's always variables there as to just how that level of discourse went down. That's not something I can answer.
Because that will be the follow-up, I think. Okay, if that's what Amy came to, she didn't like what she saw in 2023 with Mike Vrabel having more say in personnel. Why couldn't that be reconcilable? Why couldn't they move forward together saying, hey, this didn't work out. You're going to continue to be our head coach, but roster control is going to go into, a more traditional fashion with the general manager.
Which, by the way, Rand said that the role of a traditional GM is not what the role of a GM is yesterday. I don't know. There's a lot of different stuff in that press conference.
A lot of collaboration around the league.
Oh, God.
But that's the next question, right? Okay, then why wasn't it salvageable? Was that enough for these two to part ways?
To say anything beyond what we've just talked about would be speculation. So I don't want to, on a day when facts very much matter on this stuff, I don't want to speculate anything, not even for fun, like with the Blaine Bishop audio. But all I know is Mike Vrabel is a very blunt person, and sometimes being as honest as humanly possible doesn't always play to your benefit. That's all that is. Again, this is Amy's decision to make. She made it. Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network also doing some follow-ups on the Mike Vrabel situation on NFL Network this morning.
Well, you mentioned it right off the top. We did have another coach move yesterday. Mike Vrabel is out as head coach of the Tennessee Titans. And I would say based on the way this was going the last couple weeks, not totally a surprise. And Rand Carthon, the general manager, came out yesterday and talked about how good the relationship had been between him and Mike Vrabel. My understanding is that is true. This was a decision made by Amy Adams Strunk, one that she has been mulling for the last several weeks. I would say maybe the last several months, ever since Mike Vrabel went to New England, took part in the Hall of Fame day, and all the rumors started floating about whether or not Mike Vrabel would be the Patriots coach next year, whether he'd be the Titans coach. He never really addressed that internally. I know that didn't sit great with the people there. He went into a meeting yesterday with the owner. It was not a long meeting, and he was presented with a couple different things. Did not sound like he was into it, and he is now out a 6th head coach opening. And I think it's fair to say if the coach job opens in New England, currently held by Hall of Fame coach Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel would certainly be a name to watch.
So that all tracks, right?
Interesting how he worded that.
Which part?
He was presented with a couple of things. Clearly, he was not that into it.
When you know that a decision has been made already, but somebody is just telling, like the trade stuff, for example, with all the speculation about Mike Vrabel being traded to the Patriots, and I know we'll get into this later. Well, I guess we can get into that coming up next. Why don't we take some phone calls? Because I think that's like, how realistic. Do you know, presenting whatever you're presenting to him, that he's going to say no thanks anyway?
That's my biggest question.
Because
the reports, Albert Breer, right? Wasn't a very long meeting. It wasn't a, hey, this is how we want to move forward. What do you think about this?
This is not Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft over multiple days working through some stuff. This was, hey, you want this? We're not going to give it to you. This is how it's going to be. Okay, no thanks. Doesn't have to drag out. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join the discussion. How about Scott in Franklin?
Hey, guys. How's it going today?
It's going good.
Good. I'll try to be brief. I know I'm on the clock. So in light of these, heavy questions, you've got, does the owner know what she's doing? People the questions that Titans fans would ask. Does she know what she's doing? Does Rand know what he's doing? Was the Vrabel firing really necessary / who will be the next coach? And for me, even was the John Robinson firing necessary? In light of those questions that every Titans fan is asking one or more of, if she were to say today, Jeff Fisher is the new president and CEO of this organization and all further football decisions flow through him, end of story, do you think that Titans fans who feel like we're kind of on a rudderless ship would feel like there's a rudder and now we've kind of got a direction to go? And I'll hang up and listen.
So so in this hypothetical, we're creating a new position for Jeff Fisher to come in and be the overseer of the independent arbiter?
What should we call it?
What was Stretch's title? Director of Football Administration?
Yes.
It just takes on new meaning. We give it more power. We give it more juice. Oh, my God. Because I think Scott's asking seriously. Like that. I mean, unless I'm misunderstanding Scott, like you're asking a serious question. So I'm laughing, but I don't want to downplay it if you're asking a serious question. Are you, in fact?
I am serious because I feel like most Titans fans don't know if this ship called the Titans has a rudder, and it feels like somebody who's an experienced football guy could come in and say, all right, I'm laying the groundwork. This is how it's going to be. He's the GM. He's the coach. And they report to me, and so on and so forth.
Okay. Let's and so, listen, I think there's a good way to clarify that. Amy thinks she's the rudder.
Amy is the rudder.
Amy is the rudder.
She doesn't think she is. She is.
She is, for sure. Does the rudder, who some, maybe Scott considers that to be insufficient, does Amy Adams Strunk think she is insufficient to be her franchise's rudder? I'm going to tell you that for as much as Mike Vrabel's ego is talked about and Rand Carthon's ego is talked about, Amy Adams Strunk has an ego, okay? So just to kind of explain why something like that wouldn't necessarily be on the top of her list. It's because whether she's right or wrong, she is the direction that they're heading. And how much she's just told you she's not willing to cede much of that control over the direction. So I think Jeff Fisher just as kind of a name to put into that, because that's one that a lot of Titans fans, of course, associate with the best times of Titans football. I get, but no, you're telling the woman who just said she would like to maintain the control over her organization, or more control over her organization than less. You're asking her to cede more of that control. No fly zone.
There is a report that the Titans have requested to interview one candidate.
Let's talk about that coming up next.